Hi there, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be swapping out my alternator, which is the original alternator, as well as my belt tensioner. So check it out.
I hate mud. That being said, I'm not going to avoid muddy trails. But my days of bombing through mud and through deep water at Mach 2 with my hair on fire are over. It's very hard on a lot of different parts.
So if you spend a lot of time in mud, one thing that you have to be very aware of is the belt tensioner. This is the lowest pulley on most 3.6 Wranglers. I can't think of any that don't have this below the idlers, and this has a bearing which obviously can fail. Now this one is only 6 years old, so it's probably fine, but I'm still going to replace it.
In addition to the tensioner, I'm going to be swapping out my original alternator. It's not giving me any signs that it's on its way out, but given that I'm approaching 200,000 kilometers, and since I've been doing a lot of soloing as of late, I want peace of mind out on the trails. This is a pretty easy job with a small list of tools, and about an hour of your time required. Whenever you're dealing with anything on the power system, the first step is to unplug your battery. And make sure the post is isolated. Next up, remove the air intake. As many times as I've done this, you'd think I'd be better with the sensor connector by now. I don't see a lot of people doing this step, but I always cover up the throttle body, as well as the airbox. Time to get that old alternator removed. Once the alternator is removed, you'll have easier access to the belt tensioner. There are only 2 bolts holding it in place. It really doesn't matter which one you start with. I did the bottom bolt first, so that it would be easy to grab the tensioner from the top and pull it out. While you're here, inspect your idler pulleys. These tend to take a beating in moist environments. My NAPA pulleys still feel as good as the day I installed them.
I am replacing the OEM with this nice NAPA piece. The bearing feels amazing. I really do like the quality of the NAPA stuff. Strongly recommend, if you are changing your tensioner out, if you are swapping your tensioner out, definitely give the NAPA a good look. Same price as the Mopar, but made in Canada versus not.
Get your belt ready for the install. The tensioner is going to go on top of the lower side of the belt. It's very important to get this right. As far as the torque specs here go, hand tight, or around 25 to 30 pounds is all the tensioner needs.
Because I'm going for trail reliability on Ruby here, I am going to swap out my original equipment alternator. This is a 250 amp alternator, and I am swapping it out for another 250 amp alternator made by TuffStuff. It's wonderfully black anodized, it feels nice and smooth. I'm really looking forward to getting this in my Jeep. And again, my alternator wasn't giving me any signs that it was on its way out. I just wanted some trail reliability.
Like my wheeling adventures as of late, I'm doing this work solo, which is fine except for one step: releasing the tension on the belt. You need to do this to get the alternator in place. Ratchet straps for the win. With the tension released, the alternator will slide right in. To bolt in the alternator, you'll need a 13 and a 14 millimeter socket. Again, 25 to 30 pounds of torque or hand tight is totally fine here. Next up, release the tension. Also, you'll most likely have to remove the air box to get the breaker bar into the receptacle on the belt tensioner. Lastly, reconnect the power lines. Then, reconnect the battery. Reinstall the air intake. Don't forget to reconnect the sensor or an error code will pop up. After double checking the belt seating as well as the tension, fire it up. Everything appears to be working.
Okay, so that's it. It's a pretty basic, pretty straightforward installation process. Start to finish took me, maybe half hour, 45 minutes, and you don't need a whole bunch of tools to do it. Now, as I said earlier, my alternator nor my tensioner were giving me any kind of signs that they are on their way out. But because I do quite a bit of soloing, I just want peace of mind when I'm out on the trails, because the last thing I want is for something kind of as trivial as an alternator or a belt tensioner to fail. Now, when the tensioner fails, you can kind of hear it going out, especially when you're starting up your Jeep cold. It'll make quite a whining sound, and you'll kind of have at least some warning when the tensioner is on its way out. And it's also something that you can just test pretty easily. Basically get under there with your breaker bar, detension the whole thing, and spin the pulley on the tensioner. So you can, and at that point you'll be able to determine whether or not it's on its way out or not. An alternator, well, my understanding is they either work or they don't. There's kind of no in-betweens. So Ruby's officially turned 11 just last week, I believe. So I felt, now's a good time as any to get that original alternator out. It doesn't owe me anything. Ruby's almost got 200,000 kilometers on it. So, it's probably a really good time to swap out that old alternator. So this is my first experience with the TuffStuff stuff. So look for a product review in about a year to see how that alternator's held up. It looks really good, and the reason I went with the TuffStuff alternator was because it does resist mud and water, and that's exactly the types of conditions that I tend to wheel in. So look for a product review on that one, like I said, in about a year or so. Anyways, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a like, send me a comment, let me know how my channel's doing, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all out on the trails.